Graffiti Bridge was one of my all-time favorite albums from Prince. It was the album that got me into him and got me into his sound, and I was on board. And Graffiti Bridge, the movie, is a thing that you can watch. Seriously, though, it is actually one of my guilty pleasures. I kind of like that movie, even though it gets so much flack. And recently, I was able to get my hands on some of the outtakes, and I was like, huh, what did they leave out of this movie? It seemed like it was chock full. Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. And as always, these videos would not be possible without the assistance of our patrons and YouTube members. Please go ahead and check out the links in the description and consider becoming one. It really helps us out. All right, so Graffiti Bridge cutscenes. I was super excited when I saw that there were deleted scenes, and I assumed that there was deleted scenes, but like I said before, it didn't seem like Prince cut much. Like, there was so much in this movie. Like, it was way longer and like so many musical performances. Would you be surprised if I told you the majority of what was cut was more musical performances? and now obviously, because some of it is music, I'm not going to be able to show the whole thing here, but I do want to discuss what was taken out, what kind of happens, and go about that. So the first thing that I actually really liked is these deleted scenes kind of gave you a little bit more. They were almost used as establishing shots. So like the very first cut scene is Prince doing Can't Stop This Feeling I Got, which is a great song. And it's him, he's dancing at first in his room, then he climbs onto the stage, kind of giving you, hey, this is the lay of the land of what the Glam Slam looks like. He goes outside, he's dancing with George and Mavis, and you're actually seeing that they are friends, they care about each other. There is a connection here with the three of them. And for me as a storyteller, that's a visual cue that I feel was lost in the final cut. Like, sure, maybe we didn't need the whole performance of this song, and that's the thing about this scene. It shows you why Morris ends up going after these three clubs. It's not just that Mavis and George and the kid are the three, who are holding out. They're not just holding out by themselves. You can actually see that they get along, they perform together, they probably agree business-wise as well. And also, it honestly only seems like George is the only one who's probably making any money.
George grabbed 19.5 last night, Morris. We made a killing.
They even say in the movie that George did pretty darn good. And what kind of club is Mavis running if she's got her little kid, her son, running around in the club? It's obviously not, the kind of club that's going to be selling tons of liquor and like moving people through and stuff. So the holdout there of that club almost seems to me like it's almost like a property thing and less a money thing. But then the kid, we know that he is doing all of his religious music and it's turning people off. Shame on you for wanting to spread positivity and this message of the Lord and whatnot. But again, from just this one little shot, it connects these characters in such a strong way. They're dancing, they're having fun. I can't stop this feeling I got, which means, it's positive, we're feeling good, and he's having fun with his friends. And his friends are Mavis and George, which makes sense because that's what happens at the end of the movie, is Morris and his boys start going after the kid, but also Mavis and George. So it makes sense why they're targeting them and not the other three clubs, that don't really get that much mention. The second musical number, and again, these are all pretty much musical numbers except for one scene, and I can't wait to talk about it. But the second musical number is for Question of You. And this is not one that was not used in the movie because we obviously know Prince utilized it as the backdrop for the montage with Aura during the movie. In the cutscene, though, it's just Prince at a piano performing it for Aura. And it's good. I mean, it's the song. It's a really amazing song. But I think that it actually did work better as the backdrop to more of a montage of them getting to know each other, Question of You playing, and I kind of dig that. As well, it also kind of adds to the illusion of Aura and who she is and what she represents, having the Question of You, which is primarily a song about God, as the backdrop for that. It actually really makes a lot of sense for her character to have that as the backdrop. If he's just singing a song like, hey, I'm trying to figure out who you are, like right to her, I think it alleviates and removes some of the mystery of it all because that's like sitcom writing 101. If there's a question to be asked, you can't just ask it. It has to go with a lot of assumptions and things like that. Like you can't just ask. In terms of the Tevin Campbell performance, there's an outtake for that, the whole thing. But it's not the performance itself. All of the footage is the same. However, the music itself is slightly different. So it's a different cut of Round and Round, one that I had never heard before looking at these outtakes. So, wow, look at that. You get to hear new Prince music even when you're just looking at old stuff. It's awesome. But one thing that the sequence actually does kind of show is that the Round and Round performance actually originally came right after Jill took off her undies and threw them at the kid. So I found that to be kind of interesting. So they kind of cut that little bit out in editing, but the sequencing of the scenes got completely flipped around. And you get to see stuff like that when you look at the cut scenes. It's pretty cool. Movie making is amazing. So the next musical number that was cut out, again, all of these are musical numbers except for one, and we're waiting to the end to talk about that one because it's a big one. The next one is Latest Fashion, and it actually has a full performance of the kid and his band, New Power Generation, versus Morris Day and The Time, and them actually singing their parts and his big dancing and choreography. And I mean, it's pretty fun. I definitely see why they cut it. I think that was more a runtime thing than anything. And I think it was enough for Morris Day and The Time to watch him do Tick Tick Bang and then just go, better bring an army, show enough.
Better bring an army, show enough.
And then just walk away. And I think that was even more of an insult to the kid than to even take the time to musically banter back and forth with him with Latest Fashion. So I think that's maybe the reason that this scene was cut as well, either that or for time. One thing that I found interesting in the whole sequence, though, was when it gets to the you're fired part is when Jill actually gets up and starts dancing, and then Morris fires her and she storms off. And I was like, oh, so maybe that's why we never saw Jill again in the movie. I found that very funny because she was kind of there and then kind of went away. And, this is why she was fired. And now we get to the final outtake that I've seen, at least. Maybe there's more, but these are the ones that I've seen. And it involves the exchange between Aura and the kid. So if you remember in the movie, the kid gets a little notepad and writes a hangman with 4 letters, and she guesses A, B, C, D. And he writes it out. The word is mine. And then he goes, mm, mm. And she goes, no, baby, I'm his. And then it cuts to question of you with the whole, I'll fall in love with the first man I see. So that's like what the end result ended up being. But remember, originally, Question of You was actually just him singing it to her. Then there's a scene of her storming out of his room. Possibly it could be that he woke her up when attempting to fondle her, which was a thing that he resisted in the movie. One of the things that I don't like about the movie. But she storms out and she does her own hangman for him in this very controversial scene. You go ahead and watch it.
Aura?
Hey,
B. C. D.
And if you look at the end there, love me is what she had as the hangman answer. But I actually really dug this scene. A lot of people were like, no, keep that somewhere else. But I actually really dug it. I thought that it added to the darker tone of the kid as a character, first off. And he's playing around with a lot of ideas of suicide in this movie. The kid is unhappy in his current status. His woman is leaving him, and he's looking for God. This woman he just met, and again, was so hot he almost couldn't resist fondling her while she slept, is now running away from him, and his bandmates don't respect him. He's losing business. Like, everything is kind of going down. And he even says in the movie,
Yeah. Sometimes I feel cursed to make the same mistake you made.
which then brings us to this hanging scene, because she writes out 6 letters and she ties off a noose, and every time that he doesn't guess one of the letters correctly, the noose gets tighter and tighter until the end, where he is going to die. And the question becomes, do you really want to die, or is all of this just a play? And I really dig that, because suicide is one of those things. A lot of the time, suicide attempts are a cry for help. And that is kind of where the kid is right now. He's playing around with the idea of suicide because his life is in shambles. And she is actually here as a vessel from God to save him. But she can't do it for him. He has to choose to do it. And that is one of the things that I really dug about it. It did add, obviously, a darker tone to the movie as a whole, which was more joyous, more celebratory kind of thing. At the same time, I felt like Prince was always riding that edge of light and dark. I always liked it when he would be like, it sounds like it's all happiness and rainbows over here, but really, though, there's some real hurt and there's some real pain from me as a person, and I'm going to share that with you too. And I always really dug that about Prince and his music, and even his visual representation on screen. And what I've seen a lot of people say about the hangman scene is, oh, why would some dude let her do that to him? But if you watch closely, he's doing it to himself. He puts his own head in that rope, and then he repeats the same thing that she did. He goes A, B, C, D, and is also wrong just like she was wrong. I don't know. I really dug it. There's a lot of different opinions about it, but if you've never seen any of these outtakes, I think you should go try to track them down and watch them yourself. Then you can always come back and you can kind of join in the conversation here down in the comments. But I mean, I basically laid it all out for you here. I really liked a lot of the outtakes. I dug the hangman scene. I liked the "Can't Stop This Feeling I Got" kind of sequence. Maybe not necessarily for the song, because honestly, the song kind of felt out of place if you were to put it right at the beginning of the movie. However, the visuals that went along with that part of the movie really worked for me in terms of continuing the story and making some of the stuff that happens later make more sense. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know about it all down in the comments. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, consider becoming either a YouTube member or patron. Both of those links are down in the description. And otherwise, may you live to see the dawn. I love you all.